So there we go. So like I said, thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about AV over IP, the M43 and the SDVoE. So the agenda is going to look a little bit like this. We're going to keep it fairly high level this week, although we will be doing further, more technical in-depth sessions, but we're going to flow like this. So we'll take a look at what AV over IP is. We're then going to delve into something called the SDVoE. We're going to look at how NETGEAR fits into these two solutions or areas. And then we're going to take a look at the products that NETGEAR are using within those two areas. Some of the solutions, we'll walk you through some needs and speeds. And then, as always, we'll spare a little bit of time at the end for any Q&A that you may have. And if you do have questions along the way, if you are joining us via the Zoom conference software, there is a chat window. If you're not and you're joining us via YouTube, you may want to come online and ask some questions. Do flip back over to the Zoom registration link, and you will be able to log straight in and ask questions as we go that I'll take some time to answer. I'm just going to go with Kevin Smith, who's saying he's got no sound, which would really suck because I've been talking for quite a while now, Kevin. Can anybody confirm that they can hear me just within the chat window? Fantastic. Thank you, Matt. Kevin, unfortunately, I think it may just be you. Maybe worth maybe trying to plug a headset in. Thanks, guys. So, Kevin, I'm going to take a start, but don't panic. If you do miss anything, I will follow up with you afterwards, and we can walk you through, and I can point you to some videos, and we can have a chat afterwards. So let's delve straight in. So AV over IP, or audio visual over IP. So take a step back and introduce you to why we're here talking today. Looking at traditional Pro AV solutions that you may find out there existing, they're struggling to keep up and handle, process flawless 4K definition video at large scale. The majority of AV solutions out there you'll find will actually compress that 4K video using H.264 to be able to carry it on slow capacity networks. Problem you're going to find with this, and if you take a look at the image on the right, hopefully you're at a good bit rate yourself, and you'll be able to differentiate between a compressed video and an uncompressed video. And when we start to compress this video, it introduces problems, and you're going to see things such as latency, jittering, a loss in quality of the video itself. When we start to look at larger Pro AV installations, and we're talking things like video walls, 4K movie projectors, concert halls, maybe you're looking at things like stadium-wide deployments, trade shows, you're going to see that they don't meet the standard expected when you are pushing out that 4K video. Now, this itself has resulted in more and more of AV distribution moving to Ethernet networks. It's not the first technology that we've seen this happen to. Probably the most obvious precursors to this are going to be things like CCTV or the shift towards IP CCTV. And the most obvious one, of course, for me personally and a lot of guys in the networking world is going to be telephones, and the shift towards the use of VoIP phones as opposed to traditional telephone lines. There's lots of advantages that you're going to get when you do make the shift over to IP, not limited to, but including things like cost, the distances that you can move that technology and that data, and all these things combined, along with those wide breadth of applications when we're using an IP network as opposed to maybe a proprietary system, have helped accelerate this growth of AV over IP, and in turn allowing me to come and talk to you today about it. So that brings us on to the Software-Defined Video over Ethernet Alliance, or the SDVoE. Now, the SDVoE Alliance is a non-profit consortium comprises of leading companies with a shared mandate to standardize the delivery of AV over IP networks. I'd encourage you guys to go and take a look at it. You can find them on SDVoE.org. Within the Alliance, you'll find NETGEAR, and you'll also find us listed under Design Consultant Certified by the SDVoE. There are 28 plus members and growing. These consist of contributors, adopters, and founding members. So as you can see, when you take a look at the middle of the screen, NETGEAR are a founding member, along with Quantia, Christie, Semtech, Sony, and ZV. So we are all founding members, as well as contributors to the SDVoE. So why the SDVoE? So it is universally acknowledged that we are going to see a shift or transition of the AV industry over to IP-based solutions. But much with many things, there are many different approaches and many different ways to standardize this. And this can be confusing for both the market, the customer, be it the end user. Now, SDVoE architectures are based on off-the-shelf Ethernet switches. To you and me, that means non-proprietary systems. And this allows us to make substantial cost savings and introduce greater flexibility and scalability over things like the traditional approaches. Now, it's only really the SDVoE that can deliver or has the capability to standardize and deliver true 4K 60 frames per second video over standard Ethernet hardware. And the markets, like we discussed a moment ago, that can benefit this is massive. It can include things like education. We've seen a big shift, especially in campus education, for things like video signage, healthcare, for things like endoscopes and video operations, enterprise for TV, video projector installations, entertainment, hospitality, retail, houses of worship. The list really does go on. And in all of these places, the ability to stream video and audio content is becoming more and more important. So how does NETGEAR fit into this? So while NETGEAR is a global networking company that for 20 plus years has been delivering innovative products to businesses, service providers, or consumers with a focus on reliability and ease of use, we are also a founding member of the SDVoE Alliance. And at NETGEAR, we've acknowledged that there is a need from the industry for some standardization between different manufacturers who all supply different components within that. And we've committed to the design and manufacture of SDVoE compliant Ethernet switches. So the idea is to take the complexity out of your SDVoE deployment. And as part of this, NETGEAR has created the M4300 range of switches. And all of these switches are pre-configured for easy, true AV and multicast zero-touch network configuration. But from a user perspective, the idea behind the solution is we select the M43 that fits our port count, be it at 1 gig, 10 gig, or 40 gig. Do we need copper or fiber? We then connect our SDVoE devices, power on, and like it says, the switch just works. So all NETGEAR M4300 family switches are ready for instant, flawless delivery of 4K 60 frames per second video over IP with zero touch configuration. And as part of the SDVoE Alliance, the NETGEAR SDVoE partners provide the audio and video products, guys like ZV and Christie. And then NETGEAR is committed to providing the backbone to that network that makes it all possible. So let's take a look at the switches that NETGEAR is providing to do this. So we're talking about the NETGEAR M4300 series of layer 3 fully managed switches. Now these come in various port counts and denominations. We're looking at 1 gig, 10 gig, 40 gig, and also multi-gig. You're looking at, in one stack, up to 384 1 gig ports, 768 10 gig ports, or 192 40 gig ports, or a combination of all of those together. And those are all under one virtual stacking chassis. So they will all stack together for single IP address management. You're going to get things like non-stop forwarding. So should any switch within that stack fail, each and every single switch will continue to forward and route its traffic independently of any of those failures. It is scalable. There are a number of different units in that range, be it at 1, 10 or 40 gig like we spoke about. It is off the shelf and instant 10 gig networking with the SDVoE zero touch configuration. Traditional things you're going to see in that space when we're talking about AV is going to be things like HD-based T switches. When we're talking about price per port, here's where we're looking at massive savings. And traditionally, you could be looking starting at under $100 a port, averaging 100, in comparison to $1,000 a port average when you're working with HD-based T switches, as well as the expense and the proprietary nature of running those HD cables around buildings. Now, in terms of the tech behind that zero-touch configuration, what we're talking about on the switches is IGMP snooping enabled on our default VLAN 1, IGMP fast leave enabled in default VLAN 1. We also have the IGMP querier hosted directly on the switch and again enabled on default VLAN 1. And then we also have unknown multicast traffic set to be dropped. So all of these things are enabled by default that will allow me to plug in my video encoders or decoders straight into the switch without spamming multicast traffic out of every single port on my switch. Now, because these switches come in both copper and fiber and a mix of both, it gives you the ability not just to run video up to 100 meters on traditional copper cable, be it up to Cat 6A. You're also now looking at long haul distribution of that video all the way into the kilometers when we're talking about fiber runs. Now, the application for that for Pro AV can break down like this. So here we have in the middle the biggest switch and the flagship model of the M43 range, which is our M4300-96X. And as you can see, video application doesn't have to be restricted to one thing. We could be talking about the digital signage in the top left-hand corner. We could then have 4K cameras and servers, Blu-ray, satellite distribution, if we're talking about things like IPTV solutions, something very prevalent in hotels or hospitality and sometimes even hospitals. Talking about the ability to push out videos from my laptop. Can do it over copper, fiber, and again, things like projectors or video walls, like would not be too dissimilar to when you rock up to an IP Expo or to InfoSec coming up, and we see mass video walls on display at conference centers. Again, all of these things can be running line rate on a NETGEAR M4300 switch with zero configuration. And then the end result is going to look a little like this. So here we have testing, one of our testing centers, all the video streams, all running through decoders and encoders, all live through a completely unconfigured NETGEAR switch. You can see the rolling LG demo, everything in sync, everything flawless, all at the same time. Now, although it is geared and we are talking about AV over IP, the obvious thing is the M43 doesn't just stop at having an AV application. So there is a mass traditional IT application, be it in networks for HA top of rack or TOR switching, things like our innovative half and half size switches that clamp together to perform a 1U switch that will operate in an active mode. And those can be pre-configured in 10 gig. Edge ring stacks to simplify deployments. So we have non-stop forwarding and spine and leaf stacking on our switches that allow you to create 40 gig or 10 gig spines to your network, and then have 1 gig or 10 gig leafs hanging directly off those, all with their own dedicated links to the core or the master and backup of that switch. But like we said, regardless of failure, this range of switches will continue to provide you non-stop forwarding across the complete stack. I'm going to take a brief look at the needs and speeds. So within the range, there are both 10 gig and 1 gig models. So under 10 gig, we have the half and half 8 and 8s, which you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Clamped to that 8 and 8, we have the 12 and 12. So those are both half copper, half fiber at 10 gig. And we also have a full width 24/24, which is half copper, half fiber. Now there are half width pure copper versions, and there is also a 48 port copper version that is all 10 gig. I have listed the M4300X, but I'm going to come and talk about that in a separate slide. Now we also have 1 gig models. The 1 gig models will also come with a minimum of 4 10 gig uplinks, 2 in copper, 2 in fiber. These can be used for stacking or just for Ethernet. So even in smaller requirements, you can use a 1 gig switch and then input 10 gig into there via those uplink ports. Now, there are PoE and non-PoE versions in there. So we do have the 28G, the 52G, and then the PoE Plus and 52G PoE Plus. There's a few different power supplies. So in terms of maximum, you're looking at over 1,000 watts using our more powerful APS 1000Ws, or we are looking around 720 watts if you're using our 550 watt power supplies. So there are different SKUs. Power supplies are delivered with the unit. I'm going to take you to look now at the M4300X. So this is the newest model within the range. This was announced at this year's ISE show in Amsterdam. So this unit here is from the same family of switches as all the others that we've just seen. It will stack with every other switch within that range. Now this one itself introduces first for NETGEAR, which is our first 40 gig QSFP Plus switch. So it is a modular switch, comes in 8 port modules. They start at our 10 gig, which is also a multi-gig card. So the multi-gig card will support 100 meg, 1 gig, 2.5 gig, 5 gig, and 10 gig. It also introduces another first for NETGEAR, which is a 10 gig PoE Plus card. So again, this card is multi-gig, so it has the ability to do 100 meg, 1 gig, 2.5 gig, 5 and 10, but it also does PoE on those ports. And we have the 8-port SFP Plus card, and then we have the 2-port QSFP Plus card also. Now we're looking at around 1.92 terabit per second of non-blocking architecture. So when we say we can plug in 10 gig to every port, we mean we can push that back out, line rate out of that switch. And again, everything is configured with the zero-touch multicast SDVoE ready configuration to allow you to simply plug and play straight into the switch. And all of the switches in that range include our ProSafe lifetime warranty, which includes next business day replacement for life and 24/7 online support for life. Now, it is a big switch and it does scale up to 96 ports. So we do have a configurator available. You can go online to www.netgear.com/96x-config. This will allow you to input how many ports you want, be it in 10 gig or 40 gig, copper or fiber, the amount of power supplies I need, installation services, and this will then report back to you with your entire kit list and SKU numbers. So it's something there just to help you guys run through the configuration of that unit. So guys, that brings us onto some Q&A. Has been a very quick session, so I'm just going to open up into our Q&A. I can see we do have some questions. So I can see we've got a question here. What is the stacking capability if more than 96 ports? So if we're looking at the 96X, the hardware limitation of the M4300 range is 8 units. So you can have up to 8 of those 96Xs all stacked together, or a combination of 8 models from the range. If we're looking at port numbers, we're looking at 384 1 gig ports. So that's based on a stack of our 1 gig models with 10 gig uplinks. If you're looking at our 96X, you're looking at 192 40 gig ports as a maximum, and you're looking of any of our 10 gig models, be it the 96X, the half size, or the full size SKUs, you would be looking at a maximum of 768 10 gig ports under one stack. Now those numbers will decrease if you mix across the board. So obviously if you're looking at a combination of 1 gig and 10 gig, then those numbers will reduce respectively to reflect that. Hopefully that answers your question. Guys, if you do have any more questions, do let me know. While you're thinking of that, I'm just going to whiz you through this. So, as usual, there are a whole load of resources available at NETGEAR for you to use. We have the NETGEAR product selector tool. If you go to http://selector.netgear.com, you will find our business product selector tool here. You can input all your requirements, be it port counts, needs, speeds, layer 2, layer 3, stacking, quality of service, all your abilities. This is going to output all your available products, also available on iOS and Android as an app. With Windows, unfortunately, you do need to use the web link, but it is optimized for mobile. We have the M4396X configurator that we talked about. So that is available at netgear.com/landings/M4300-96X-configurator. We do have multiple webinars that we've been doing. So can browse back if you did miss any of our other webinars on multi-gig, which is 100 meg, 1 gig, 2.5, 5, and 10 gig, which has some really great implications for things like legacy Cat5e cable. That's also available online. We've talked previously about surveillance and our ReadyNAD solutions and our Insight Smart Cloud. And this video will also go back online afterwards. So if you didn't see it or you do want to share it afterwards, that will be available online. You see, we are another question around the kind of latency that we're talking about for a 2K video over the whole chain. So we are looking at essentially 0 latency. 2160p 4K video. So we are looking at 0 latency across that stack. And what I will do, guys, is I'm going to send some follow-up information. We have kept it quite high level, so I will send out some more detailed technical information. Now, within our lab setup in the NETGEAR UK, we do have kindly donated some ZV 4K video decoders and encoders. So if anybody does want to see this technology live, they want to demonstrate it to either yourselves, your teams, or to customers, do speak to us. We have the ability to factory default any one of our M4300 products and show you this happening live if it's useful to you guys. So we also have our surveillance product selector that is available online. So you can browse in. This will help you work out surveillance solutions using our ReadyNAS and Milestone Arcus software. Then we have a whole load of useful links to all of the things we've talked about, be it the videos, our communities, our product selectors. And we are going to share these with you afterwards. So everyone that registered and signed up today, we are going to send out a link to the recording. We'll also send out the slides for you guys that you guys can use, share yourselves. I'm going to leave you with this lasting comment. So flawless 4K video over IP networking by NETGEAR, where NETGEAR is delivering off-the-shelf 1 gig, 10 gig, and 40 gig networking for true 4K video over IP. So guys, that kind of takes us to the end of our presentation today. So I'm just going to roll back through some of the questions we've got here. So we do have another one. Are modules hot swappable, and how is the software configuration managed for the modules? So absolutely correct. So all the modules are hot swappable. Zero downtime for the removal plug and play of those modules. So it is as simple as grabbing the module you want. Now we do start the chassis as an empty chassis, and there are starter kits if you want to buy the chassis with a certain configuration of modules. But you can purchase an empty chassis, power it on, load the modules as and when you need them. Should your requirement grow, you can start with up to 1 8-port module to go into the switch, and then you can expand and add modules as and when you need them with zero downtime on that switch. So who is providing encoder and decoders for the SDVoE? So there are a few different networking companies, video companies, encoder, decoder companies. The founding member that we're working very closely with at the moment is ZV, and we have a set of ZV video encoders and decoders. Look out, we will be with ZV in central London, giving a talk with them on video AV over IP coming up in July. So do watch out for that. We will send out further information, and I'm sure ZV will be providing, but I will send out some information on the ZV codecs that we are using here in the office. And again, if you want to see them or you want us to demonstrate them to you, do let us know. Got another question just on, is the software stored on the backplane or on each module? So the software is on the backplane of the switch itself, so it will accept the incoming module. Obviously, we wouldn't want you to remove the module and remove the software from the switch, so rest assured, no matter what you do, the software is safe on your switch. Like I said, guys, I would encourage you guys, if there are opportunities and you would like us to demonstrate any of the models within this range of M4300 switches, be it from a switching perspective, or be it from a switching and a NETGEAR and an SDVoE perspective, including things like the ZV video encoders and decoders, do let us know. We have the capability, the hardware and the software to demonstrate these things to yourselves, to your customers, ad hoc or as required. Got a few more hands raised. So I think we've got hands raised from Nakula, Nick, and Nikolai. So if you guys do have any questions, do feel free to let me know. Again, if you didn't get to ask a question or you do think of something after, do feel free to let any of us at the NETGEAR team know, be it myself or any of your contacts at NETGEAR. It looks like that's all of our questions for today. So thank you for joining us. We have been talking about the flawless 4K video over IP networking. We know the applications are large. There are numerous places that, oh, I think we've just seen a quick question slip in. No, thank you, Edward. No problem. My pleasure to talk to you all today about it. So remember, the applications that we've talked about today are the AV over IP applications. There are many more. We have numerous places where we've seen the M4300 switches. They are in education, hospitality, SMB, as far wide as Bitcoin mining, under 40 gig and 10 gig Bitcoin server farms. So there are numerous applications that these switches can be used for. The AV over IP is one of the newest and most interesting applications that we've seen. So guys, I'm going to sign off for today. Thank you very much for joining us from all over the world, wherever you've joined from. It is very much appreciated to share some information about AV over IP, the SDVoE, and some of the products and solutions that we're looking at NETGEAR. I'm going to send out an update email to everyone that joined and registered after this webinar. So if you do have questions about anything you've seen today, any of the previous webinars, or any feedback to us on what you would like to see and hear from us in the future, please do let us know. Enjoy the rest of your working weeks and the weekends when you get there. This has been NETGEAR, the SDVoE, the M43 and AV over IP. Thank you very much and have a great week, guys.